Hi, my name is Larry, and this is my testimony. When I was young, I grew up in a family. My mom was Mennonite, my dad was Catholic, and we didn't really do a lot of church. We did go to the Catholic Church once in a while. I was confirmed and confirmation and all that, as far as I made it. But we did not go on a weekly basis. I don't remember even going, maybe once a month or something like that. God definitely was not a part of my life when I was younger. But as I look back at my age, I see where He has definitely had His hand on me the whole time. Several instances where I could have been injured worse than I was, or even possibly killed or died. So I look back and I see that His hand was definitely on me. The first instance of me being in trouble or possibly dying was when I was about 4 or 5 years old. Me and my dad were fishing in a canoe, and we tipped it over, and he swam into shore, unloaded, come back and got me after I had gone under 3 times. He pulled me out of the water, saved my life. And then the next time was probably about 1971, I believe it was, the summer of 71. I went through a barbed wire fence with a mini bike. I had a bunch of stitches. I cut my throat pretty bad, and I had a bunch of stitches really close from cutting the jugular then. And as through my teenage years, I had several accidents that were pretty serious, and into my adulthood. Growing up in the 60s, my dad worked construction. He would leave on a Sunday night or early Monday morning and come back Friday evening sometime. So all during the week we were on our own. It was my mom raising 6 of us towards once we got into the 70s. And on the weekend when my dad would come home, he would hang out at bars. He was a well provider. I mean, he really provided well for us financially, but as a father figure, he was an alcoholic. There was some bad experiences there, and as a teenager, I was definitely rebellious because of what I saw in him and the way he treated my mom and my siblings. I got angry at around 16 years old, and we literally had a fist fight in the kitchen, and I left. I did come back after my mom begging me. And we kind of buried the hatchet, but it really did break ties with us a little bit. We weren't real close. Just before I turned 19, I joined the Navy. In the fall of '79, my buddies that I was hanging out with on a regular basis, we were into all kinds of drugs, pot and quaaludes. I ended up doing a couple of blotters of acid because the first one didn't really affect me that much. From there we left base and we went up into Balboa Park in San Diego, and I had a bottle of Southern Comfort, which I haven't touched since, but they said I drank that small bottle relatively quickly. Once the acid started hitting, I just started freaking out. Where we were sitting at the end of the park, the airplanes would come in over our head, and then just about dusk, with the stream behind the planes, it made them look like dragons, and they literally looked like they turned into dragons as they made that turn to come and land, and they were coming in right over our head. I remember vividly seeing at least 2 like that before I lost it, and I just kind of went crazy. And one of the last things I remember of that night is they had me down in one of the bathrooms in the park, and I remember my buddy saying, "I can't find a pulse, I can't find a pulse." I woke up the next morning, and I vowed from that time on I would never do any heavy drugs, and I haven't. And God definitely spared me. There's no reason why I should have lived through that experience, but I did. God had His hand on me, and if He wouldn't, there's no reason I'd be sitting in this chair right now. So He spared me for a reason, as He'll spare anyone. He has a purpose for each and every one of us in our lives, And I think deep down we know what that purpose is, but sometimes we just don't agree with that purpose. So we try to take the left fork in the road instead of the right, and he'll always bring us back to where he wants us to be. My first experience with God was probably when I was 19 years old. We were in Hawaii, still in the Navy, and a lady friend of mine, she was actually on our boat. The USS Jason had women on the boat. They were the first boat to do that, and her name was Rita Moore. She took me to a Pentecostal Bible study, and when they put me in the center in a chair and everybody did hands-on praying for me, I was definitely nervous. I thought for sure I was probably going to be supper at that time. But I think that's when we walked out of there and heading back to the boat, talking, I think that's where God really made himself known to me. It wasn't a flash. It wasn't something that all of a sudden everything was there. I had more of a gradual walk because I did not convert, so to speak, right then and there. It took me time. I still had habits that needed to be broken, things I was doing, and over time I can see where he's really come into our life. And I guess when I met Yvonne and we started dating, we started going to church together, and that's when things really started happening with the Lord. After I got out of the Navy, I moved to Groton, Connecticut, building submarines, and that's where I met my wife. My dad died in 1983.
It's okay. Take your time.
Afterwards, I was told by friends and family how proud he was because I went in the military. He'd show my military photo and just tell and boast how proud he was of me. He never told me that, but he told other people. He passed away in November of '83. We were living in Connecticut at the time, me and my two sisters. And in August 18th actually of 1984 is when me and my wife Yvonne had our first date. I invited her to my brother's 18th birthday party. She walked up the driveway, and I have been in contact with her because she worked at General Dynamics as well. And when she walked up the driveway, I just felt that she was going to be my wife. I just believed that with all my heart, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Eventually, we got married at a church called Huntington Street Baptist Church in New London, Connecticut in 1987, and as members of the church, we were the youth ministry leaders, and we enjoyed that immensely. And when we moved back here in 1990, they weren't happy with us, the youth. They didn't want us to leave. But, and my wife had a couple of teenage boys when we met. It was a little bit of a rocky road at the beginning, but when we moved back here, they were old enough, they wanted to stay in Connecticut, and they weren't serving the Lord at that time, and me and her would pray daily, not necessarily together, but we always prayed for the two boys, Jamel and Michael, to come to God. And it took a while, and they are both serving the Lord now. I can see where God had really blessed us as a couple. We are interracially married, been married for almost 34 years, and she's been a true blessing. We've had our ups and downs. When I first met her, she had two boys, 12 and 14 respectively, and with me coming in being a white man, there was some turmoil there. They didn't like the idea at first. We love each other now. We had some hard times for a little bit, but all in all, it's been a great ride. When we first moved back here in 1990, that's when we saw a real change in the environment. With her, people looked down on her, I think, because they didn't get to know her first. They just looked at the color of her skin, and but now she's probably more well loved in this community than I am. We love each other. I love her more, I can say that for sure, because everything that I've put her through, with accidents that I've had, what she's done for me, with everything she's been amazing. When I asked God as a kid to let me marry a beautiful woman, He gave me the whole package. And I am so thankful for God that I have the wife I have. She's a blessing. The kids are a blessing. The grandkids are a blessing. And I love her to death. My purpose, my special quality, I ain't 100% sure. But I do have the gift of gab. I'm able to talk to just about anybody. Through the military, I was in different countries, Japan, Philippines, and places like that, Australia, and I've learned to be able to understand people with dialects. My purpose, I think, is just being able to talk to people. And being a school bus driver, I have the opportunity every year to try to help a child or two or three. I just enrolled into Global University. Kind of looking forward to going through that. I don't know where it's going to lead, if I get credentialed or not, possibly. I do have a hard time speaking in front of people, but Pastor Michael's going to get that out of me short and sweet, I'm sure. I just really do want to, I would like to see more of my family saved that's not saved, and not just, that's my individual family, but I know the whole world needs it. I would love to be a part of that. I mean, I'd like to do what God has in what He has for me to do. I'd like to be able to do that. I definitely want to hear, well done and good and faithful servant.